Hey guys, what's up? Stalin here. You can find me at twitch.tv/StalinM, or I'll just link it in the description below. So some overview about me. I'm a new content creator and I just started posting build guides for this league. About a week and a half ago, I posted my first one, and some of you may know me from it, from the Hex Blast Ignite Trickster. It's a really good build, but it required some finesse to maximize its potential, and the clear speed wasn't as good as other builds. So that brings us on to the inspiration for this build. This is a really easy build. You don't have to do anything since it's an auto bomber, and I've always wanted to play a self-chill character since last league with the Fulcrum. However, some commitments dissuaded me otherwise. But after looking at Route 2 Self-Chill Berserker, it clicked on me like, okay, let's do this character now. So there are three main aspects to make this character work, and I'll go through each of them one by one. Alright, hope you guys enjoy the video. For the first aspect of the build, we are doing self-chill. So how do we achieve self-chill? If you haven't seen Rutu's video, it's basically a combination of mainly two uniques and a cluster jewel notable. So you have Winter Weave, Malagawa's Restraint, and Cold Conduction. What happens when you shock an enemy with Malagawa's Restraint? The shock gets reflected back to you. Using Cold Conduction, that shock will also chill the enemy and thus also reversing the chill back to you. And with the Winter Weave, the effect of the chill is reversed, so instead of losing action speed, you gain it instead. So while we are chilled, we can use Replica Hot-Headed. It'll give us a nice chunk of cast speed, attack speed, and most importantly, movement speed to be further scaled via the self-chill. And also, while we are shocked, we negate that via the Replica Winter Heart. And the ES regen is really nice for a CI build like ours. Moving on to our next point, the second aspect of the build, the AutoBomber part. So it's time to keep your fingers sane, no more wrist injuries, alright? So the first part of it is Aberrath's Hooves. We make sure that we get the Lab Enchant for 80% chance to avoid getting stunned if you've killed recently. This will make you stun immune with a helmet craft that I'll show you on my Hubris circlet. Secondly, Aberrath's Hooves will also start and proc the chain for auto bombing. Aberrath's Fury will actually proc Fire Burst, which in turn will proc our Herald of Thunder. And Herald of Thunder will continue proccing as it keeps up the chain. With Shaper of Storms and Shaper of Fire, will always be shocking and igniting. So our Fire Burst is shocking the enemy, which in turn keeps Herald of Thunder up. How we keep Herald of Thunder up is via Storm Secret. So this makes sure that the chain doesn't stop. And we get free endurance charges via Enduring Composure for Immortal Call Uptime and General Fizz Reduction. So where does the bombing section come in? So how we achieve that is via Aberrath's Hooves. It has a mod which says when you kill an ignited enemy, inflict an equivalent ignite on each nearby enemy. And how we are spreading it is not only via ignite proliferation, but also with the Fan the Flames cluster notable. This way we get Scream White clears and ignite proliferations. And lastly, the weapon. This is the core, the build, and the crux of the build, the Fireburst weapon. You don't have to get a fractured one, but for the best results and the best damage, I would say get a fractured version and Scorch Fossil crafted or Harvest Fire more common crafted. You could also use a battery staff. A battery staff will give you more defenses. However, I couldn't find one on the market. Next up is the last aspect of the build, and also what makes the build so unique and fun is the Perma Berserk uptime of it. So how are we sustaining Berserk? So we're using Chainbreaker. 3.14 actually introduced and revised Chainbreaker. It used to make you lose a certain amount of rage every time you hit something, but now skills cost 3 rage as a base, and that gets multiplied via supports. However, we can actually bypass this rage requirement for skills by making it triggerable. So Fire Burst Aberra's Fury, Herald of Thunder, and our cast when damage taken setup do not cause any rage at all. Thus, we barely spend any rage and we have quite a sizable amount of mana regeneration as well. The only skills that cause rage for us would be our Infernal Cry, our Withering Step, our Smoke Mine, Berserk. That's it. So what is in our cast when damage taken setup? Firstly, we have Immortal Cry. We have Wave of Conviction. So this Wave of Conviction gives us free fire exposure, which is really nice. Secondly, we have Blade Vortex, gives a lot of hits. We have Cold Snap, which gives us Frenzy Charge generation while we are mapping. And lastly, Stormbrand for even more hits. So why do we want as many hits as possible? It's because of Elemental Overload. The more hits we have, the more chances of us proccing a crit strike, which will proc Elemental Overload. Secondly, we have a energy shield gained on a hit Watcher's Eye, so that will keep us topped up while we are spamming our cast when damage taken setup. And thirdly, Stormbrand is especially important because it keeps the Herald of Thunder loop going. So when the Stormbrand is on the enemy, because of Shaper of Storms, it will definitely shock it, and thus continuing the Herald of Thunder chain. And lastly, we want to hit as many times as possible with non-fire damage skills because we are taking Elemental Equilibrium. When you have Elemental Equilibrium, whenever you hit an enemy with, let's say, cold damage, their cold resistance increases, however, the other two resistances falls to minus 50. So when Fire Burst hits, it's going to proc Elemental Equilibrium, so the enemy, while it's ignited, will have plus 25 fire resistance. How we counteract that is we have stuff like Herald of Thunder, Stormbrand, etc. to make sure that the latest hit is a non-fire hit, as Elemental Equilibrium will only count the latest hit. So for a long duration of our ignite based on our fire burst, it will actually have minus 50 because we have all the other skills being the latest hit, which is not fire damage. And while this build is a mapping build and clearing build predominantly, as you can see from the clips, it can do bosses as well. It's not the quickest boss, and it may not be as tanky as other characters, but in its own way, it's also a pretty easy bosser. As it's an auto bomber, you don't have to press anything, you just need to evade and dodge stuff. So this is a Cirrus Awakener 9, and all the previous kills were on Awakener 9 Conquerors with rare world maps. They were not done on whites. However, I think this is the limit for boss killing for the build. Don't expect it to do stuff like the Feared, the Hidden, some of the Maven invitations. But I think being able to do Cirrus and the Conquerors is really important because as a speed farmer, you're gonna proc Cirrus and his Conquerors many times. So you want to have at least a competent enough character to take them down quickly and efficiently. And this will probably be your second, third character. So you should have a first character already set for single target and boss killing. Also, the budget, I can't really say if there's a right budget for it. Personally, I spent about the tune of maybe 50 to 60, 70 exalts, probably towards the 50 point mark. However, I cannot confirm prices as some of the items I crafted myself, and the watcher's eyes may be very limited in stock. So please do take note of that prices will vary, and the gear that you may get might be better, might be worse. So in the description, I'll include two different path of buildings. The first one will be the cast when damage taken setup with the energy shield gain on hit Watcher's Eye. But for people who may not want to spend the extra money for more automation, they can get a more accessible and much more in stock Watcher's Eye. And I'll put that in the second POB where you have to self-cast certain stuff like Stormbrand for bosses and Flame Wall for exposure. But in turn, for self-casting, you do get Fortify back with Ancestral Call and Vigilant Strike. The second build is also play tested, and I've tried it out with multiple Conquerors and Cirruses, and I've done Awaken Undying Cirrus, no problem at all, at an even lower effective life pool, because at that moment I didn't have Discipline up, so I did Cirrus with about 4000 ES and it still went fine. Lastly, thank you for watching and putting through like 10 minutes of me just rambling. This is not really a build guide, but I guess it could be, but it's just a general outline of how to make such a character and just a theory prototype. And so if you enjoy what you see, like the video and subscribe, and come watch me at twitch.tv/DylanM. I try to stream as many days as I can, as long as I can, and go over there, take a look at the build, see whether you like it, and then if you do, then you can actually put down some money to try and make it, and I'll be there to answer any questions that you have. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Bye bye.